So, hey, how's it going? It's taking me a lot longer than I thought it would to finish up this newest video, so I thought I'd just do something to savor the appetite of my 37 subscribers while you wait. Love you, cuzzo. So here's a little video talking about why I love Skullgirls, cause I don't know, I play the game a lot, and the next video is also gonna be talking about it. I might have a problem, but I can't help it. This new character is so much fun. Anyway, this is just something I thought I'd throw out, and I don't know. If people like it, maybe I'll do more on other topics. But, without further ado, this is why I love Skullgirls. So, the first point I'll make, which I'm sure has been already talked to death, is the visual style of this game. Now, I understand that we're now in a new era where most games are turning into 3D and they're spectacles and they look crazy like Guilty Gear, but there's something about the reminiscent 2D style that I've always really liked, especially with games such as BlazBlue. But what I really love about Skullgirls is how it takes a new artistic pull in a completely different direction. Granted, a bit of a masochistic one, but the way how this game looks is just so definedly different from everything else in the market. And because of that, it's always nice to know that your game will never be confused with something else that's already out there. And I mean, can we talk about the color palettes in this game? There are so many different colors in here that reference different anime, TV shows, video games, anything you can think of, it's probably in here. And within those, there are so many that reference other fighting games that it's absolutely ridiculous. You got Magneto from Marvel vs. Capcom, who's on Philia because, I mean, look at the way she plays. Makoto from BlazBlue, Mitsuru from Persona 3, or Persona 4 Arena Ultimax if you're really cultured. Ino from Guilty Gear, Elena from Street Fighter 3. There's just so much in here, and with this much referencing not only to the characters through their colors, but also through their actual movesets, it just makes it feel like the game is truly a love letter to fighting games everywhere. And I think that just about describes it. It really is a love letter to fighting games as a whole. I mean, it just makes someone like me, who just recently got into fighting games not very long ago, feel like I've been in here and I've been part of the history since the very beginning. It's the reason why I've been so willing to go back to these old games like BlazBlue and the older Guilty Gears and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Heritage for the Future, which honestly we need a new JoJo's fighting game. But anyway, it's not a shame to tell you where it came from, but it's also not a shame to be different either. You see, as much as I did really enjoy going back and playing all those old fighting games that really just threw you in there and just assumed that you knew everything underneath the sun, it made it really hard to understand the system mechanics that were really being at play. And even though they all relatively shared similar systems, it was still hard just figuring out how that system worked itself. Okay, so a great example is how the combo system affects hit stun in older fighting games and even some today versus how the combo system influences hit stun in Skullgirls. See, in other fighting games, typically getting hit by a move has a set amount of hit stun, but as you continue further and further in a combo, that hit stun decays, which is why you'll naturally fall out of the combo later on in. Which is relatively simple to understand at first, but then once you really get into it and start comboing and you try to figure out why certain combos drop at certain points, and especially against other different characters at different weights, it can get really confusing and complicated. Now you see, the way how Skullgirls does this differently is that hit stun remains the same no matter what, but instead it follows a unique IPS system that decides how long a combo will go. And for those who don't know, IPS just stands for Infinite Prevention System, the reason why hit stun decay exists in the first place. Which is kind of confusing when you think about it, because infinites get figured out all the time anyway. See, with most fighting games, there's the harsh reality of there's just going to be times where you get comboed and you have to hold it. You really got to just sit there and watch as your opponent's having fun, and some combos in some games last so long that you could probably put your controller down and go grab a water or something. But that's just how they are, right? Well, thanks to Skullgirls' IPS system, along with damage from a full combo relatively being low, it encourages heavily that you go for resets, which means as the player performing the combo, you have to pay attention to what buttons you can still use in the combo, or how far the undizzy bar is. Otherwise, they'll be able to burst out for free. This creates an interesting dynamic with burst baits as well, which are combos that purposely allow your opponent to burst so that you can bait it out and punish them afterwards. But because of the risk associated with it, you typically see players go for resets instead. But you see, it's that constant level of interactivity between you and your opponent that really sets it away from other fighting games. There are apparently other fighting games out there that also take advantage of allowing your opponent to interact in some way even after being hit, and admittedly I do still need to check them out. But Skullgirls has really set a place in my heart because of this. One of the biggest advantages that fighting games has is that constant interactivity that you have with your opponent, but it feels like in a lot of them, once you get hit, that interactivity just disappears. It just becomes, alright, well, what's the okie? But in Skullgirls, it's, shit, is he gonna come from the left, right? Am I gonna be able to do a reversal? Am I gonna be on the ground to do a reversal? There's just so many different things that you have to think about, which constantly allows you to interact. And it's a team game, which means there could be even more options at play here, which is another reason why I love Skullgirls. Not only does it give you the choice of choosing between 1, 2, or 3 different characters that all have different benefits accordingly, it also allows you to choose any grounded button in the entire game as an assist, which even applies to things like dash and grab. And yes, I know that there are the basic ones that pretty much everybody goes with, but it doesn't stop you from turning anything into an assist. If I wanted to, I can set Eliza's sweep as an assist and just have her slide across the entire map with a projectile invincible move. Or I can set Parasol's taunt as an assist so I can make Robo Fortune explode earlier for whatever reason. The point is, it exists and it's there and you can do it if you really want to. And that amount of open-endedness really allows for player expression to shine through. Despite the fact that I come across so many different big band players, it feels like I genuinely am playing a different big band player every single time. And thanks to such an excellent training mode system that has hurt boxes, hit boxes, hit stun bar, frame data, which is apparently taken for granted these days, and even save states allows you to play around with those tools to your heart's content. And yo, these characters are crazy different from each other. I mean, I don't know how they found a way to make these characters reference older characters and how they used to play, but also make them stand out and play completely different like no other character has ever played. Which, I realize now sounds like a bunch of mumble jumble, but like Parasol having obvious referencing to other charge characters like Guile, taking advantage of projectiles and vulnerability, but also standing out using her devious tier setups, Misfortune having Rekka-based special moves, but also being able to detach her head and all of a sudden play JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Heritage for the Future, Big Band literally being Potemkin, but also Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. I'll go into way more detail in a later video, but it's character designs like this that really bring people together. And speaking of, this game has an amazing community. Which, yeah, I know a lot of people like to say about the FGC in general, but if we're being honest here, we're all a bunch of degenerates, or hive minds. Or both? But anyway, this game's community has kept this game alive single-handedly for about 9 years now. Which is crazy to think about, but yeah, this game is 9 years old. And yes, it has had its fair share of controversy in the past. But this game has persevered nonetheless. It's like Melee, but deodorant included. Now, this isn't to say that Skullgirls is the most perfect game on the planet. It could use some adjustments in certain areas, one of those being accessibility. Now, when I say accessibility, I don't mean the simplified gameplay trope that we've been following for the past 5 years now. No, I mean simply teaching new players how to play the currently existing game. Now, Skullgirls does have a tutorial mode and even combo trials, but the tutorial itself is, well, basically just homework. And the trials, I don't know who set these up, but these are clearly not beginner friendly at all. I mean, to this day, I still can't do the Peacock one, and this is the second trial. But despite that, I still really love this game. Now, if all my Skullgirls propaganda still hasn't convinced you to give the game at least a try, then it is what it is, right? You're gonna do what you're gonna do. I'm gonna probably continue to make more videos about Skullgirls, and we're still gonna get charged $15 for a color pack. But hey, if you do eventually come around, I'll be waiting for you. But yeah, that's why I love Skullgirls. I can't help but feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh wait, how'd I forget about rollback?
Use your mind, use your mind, use your mind. Oh, lose your mind, lose your mind, lose